Hey there, Mary Sheila here with Occidental Nutrition, and today I want to talk about protein and the importance of protein, and let's break it down because protein is trending and I'm seeing a lot of kind of confusing messages out there, and I want to give you enough information to put your own thinking cap on, think about your physiology, and so that you can make sure to make the best choices for you. Because one of the things I don't want you to be doing is sacrificing other vital nutrients by focusing too much on protein. Like it's the only thing you're able to eat because you have to hit this number at the end of the day. And as a nutrition professional for over 15 years, I see these questions all the time. So let's break it down together. And I want you to know that you can download a little protein cheat sheet down below and use that after you learn some of these important things about protein. So the first thing I want to break down is, what is protein anyway? So protein is one of the three main macronutrients that your body relies on, with carbohydrates and fats as well. Unlike carbs and fats, which your body can store for later, protein needs need to be replenished daily throughout your day and your diet. And that's because it is essential for building and repairing tissues, supporting hormones and enzymes, and even your immune system is a protein-based system. So proteins are long chains of amino acids, which they are the building blocks of proteins. So proteins are made of amino acids, right? These long chains, and out of the 20 amino acids, 9 of them are considered essential. So we call them essential amino acids. And that means that your body actually cannot make them on their own, and you have to get them from food. So these little powerhouses are really crucial for everything from muscle repair to neurotransmitter production, and to even controlling our cravings throughout the day, okay? So we're gonna take the proteins in these long chains of amino acids of whatever that protein is, whether it's a bean or a piece of meat or some dairy. We're gonna take those long chains. Our body is going to break them down into single amino acids, and then they're going to go to our inner factory, our liver, and we're going to reform them into our body's tissues, right? We're going to rebrand those amino acids into us, right? So it's essential that we are having good quality protein and also a variety of protein, right? That reminder of variety is the spice of life, and that is true with protein as well. And I hear that a lot from people, like, oh, I eat this every day. This one protein, I eat chicken every day. I eat quinoa every day. And sometimes we need to just have more variety of just one or two things. And we can find protein in a variety of our meals. We can find it in animal sources like meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and dairy, or plant sources like beans, lentils, tofu, quinoa, and nuts. And even booster foods, right? Those would be like adding a little sprinkle of seaweed or some nutritional yeast, right? Or protein powders. We can find protein in various sources, and each type of protein that we're adding into our diet comes with its own set of benefits. For example, animal proteins are complete, right? They contain all the essential amino acids, while plant proteins often require combining to get the full spectrum, so they're not complete. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, well, I eat protein at dinner every night, right? And really, we want to make sure we're getting protein at every meal, right? And that's important because, our body needs a certain amount of protein. And usually we break protein down into, how much do I need? We break it down into grams, right? And this is where it gets nuanced. The amount you need depends on things like your age, your sex, your activity level, and even health conditions that you have, and also the level of stress. And, if you're burning the candle at both ends, you're gonna need more than maybe somebody who's super relaxed, they're chill, life is good, right? They might not need quite as much as somebody who's really imbalanced. So general guidelines suggest about 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight for somebody who's a little more sedentary. But somebody who's an athlete, maybe they're older, maybe they're pregnant, they're going to need more than somebody who's, again, just more relaxed and chill and life is good. So this kind of breaks down to, I would say, about, let's say 45 to like a little over 100 grams of protein per day per person, right? So if you're eating a meal, you want to make sure there's protein in that meal. So I always like to say, when you have a meal, you want to make sure there's a quarter of your plate, right, or the palm of your hand has protein. Okay, so then what does that look like? That's going to look like a 4-ounce piece of meat has about 30 grams of protein, right? So I like to tell people, hey, anywhere between 15 to maybe 30 to maybe even up to 40, depends on your size and all those factors, of protein per meal. So if you had 30 grams of protein at each meal, that's going to equal about 90 grams of protein in your day if you're eating 3 meals. Now, you might do really well eating 30 grams of protein at 2 of your meals, but maybe you don't want to eat that much protein at another meal. That's okay, right? As long as there's some protein there. I like to kind of generalize it between 15 to 30 grams of protein per meal, right? So some meals might be less, some meals might be more. And that kind of depends too on what you're doing, how you're feeling, your appetite, the time of day, so it's not so nuanced that you have to get so much. Because when I see people feel like they have to get so much, all of a sudden they're adding all these powders and things instead of just eating whole foods, right? But what's key to balance when we're eating protein is that it shouldn't crowd out all the other macronutrients. And we should be feeling like protein is a part of our balanced meal. It's not like I have to eat so much protein, I can't even eat anything else, right? And that's what I'm seeing out there. And then here's the next thing I want to just talk about when it comes to protein is protein digestion can be tricky and can be nuanced, and especially as we get older. So when we eat protein, the most important part of protein digestion, well, everything always happens in the mouth first, and it's really is important to chew our food well so that we create lots of surface area for our acids and enzymes to actually be able to get in there. Most of us chomp, chomp, swallow, and we don't actually create that much surface area. And our enzymes, they don't have teeth. They're just trying to get in there, and they can only get in as far as, the surface area. So we chew our food well, and then our digestion in the stomach is really important. I call it the headwaters of the digestive tract, right? Is the stomach, because literally the stomach is going to cook your food. It's going to cook your food. It's going to break it down, and it's going to unfold those proteins. And then downstream from the stomach is your intestines, where we absorb and assimilate. So we hope the stomach has done a good job of unfolding those proteins, of cooking those proteins down to then make it easier for that assimilation to happen later on downstream. So that means we need to have good stomach acid and enzymes. Digesting protein properly is essential to get the full benefits, and your stomach, again, plays a major role. Your stomach produces hydrochloric acid, which we often call HCl, and an enzyme called pepsin, both of which are critical for breaking down protein into smaller peptides that your body can absorb. If your stomach acid is low, protein digestion can suffer. So here's some of the ways that you can support protein digestion, especially when thinking about the stomach. So the first thing is mindful eating. So we want to make sure we are sitting down and chewing our food thoroughly, as I already said, and eating without distractions. What this does is this is going to help us actually eat the right amount and not overeat. The more mindful we are, the less we're going to overeat. And chew our food really well. Sometimes I have clients say, my jaw gets a little sore when I really chew my food well, right? Because chewing mechanically is going to break down the protein, and that's going to signal your stomach to start releasing those digestive enzymes and that acid. And that's really important, again, because that's the headwaters of your digestive tract. You also want to not drink a whole lot of water, and stomach digestion is both mechanical and chemical. Mechanical is that things churn. So if you eat too much, it's going to be hard for those juices to get in there. And then chemical is, we don't want to drink a whole lot of water and put out our stomach fire, right? We start building up these strong acids. We throw a lot of cold water or cold whatever beverage, and suddenly we break down we dilute our digestive juices. So we don't want to do that. So sometimes, especially as we get older, but depending on the stage of our life or what's going on, we might need to use some digestive supplements, right? If your digestion feels sluggish, you can consider something like taking some HCl, which is the stomach acid, or some digestive enzymes, especially digestive enzymes that contain protease, which specifically breaks down protein, right? There's also supportive nutrients like zinc. Zinc is crucial for stomach acid production and overall digestion, and vitamin B6 supports protein metabolism. One of my favorite ways to get zinc is using pumpkin seeds. They are delicious and you can put them in your salad. You can have them as a snack, but they're really high in zinc. And another food that's really high in zinc, and it's definitely kind of a superfood, would be oysters. So if you like oysters, you are in luck. They're one of the most nutrient-dense foods. They're sort of similar to even eating like liver or organ meat, which are also super nutrient dense. So if you're like, organ meat, if you like organ meat and you haven't been eating it, maybe that will feel good. But oysters are a great way to get high amounts of zinc. And zinc is also really important for the immune system. So as we come into cold and flu season, it's great to have enough zinc on board. And then there's also herbs like ginger and fennel that can stimulate digestion and soothe the digestive system. And it's very specific to the stomach, right? Ginger can kind of help get all those juices starting to flow at the beginning of a meal. So maybe you have a little ginger tea as you're starting to prep your next meal, right? You're sort of hydrating the stomach. You're not drinking it with your meal, but you're drinking it ahead of the meal. You're hydrating your stomach. You're getting your juices going. That could be a good thing. Now, let's talk a little bit about timing and proportions of your protein, right? So you want to avoid overwhelming your system by eating excessive amounts of protein all in one sitting. Again, I see that a lot. People slack off on breakfast, they slack off on lunch, they're just eating carbs, quick grab stuff, and then they're eating a lot of protein at night, which can be kind of heavy at night, and sometimes too much protein at night can actually affect our sleep. We might not sleep as well. So you do want to spread your protein intake throughout the day. Again, each meal, you want to aim for a quarter of your plate protein. So if you're having a small snack, quarter of that small plate protein. And then there is a thing like, what if you get too much protein or too little protein? So like anything in nutrition, balance is everything, right? Especially when it comes to protein. Now, too little protein, your body might start to break down muscle to meet its needs, leading to muscle loss, weakness, and fatigue. It can also cause slower wound healing, and it can affect your hair, your skin, and your nails, since protein is vital for their growth and repair, right? It can also really contribute to cravings. I find when people are, sometimes when they're vegetarian, but sometimes when they're just slacking on the protein, they are craving so much sugar that they just can't control themselves like later in the day. So protein is key to helping with a lot of those cravings and maintaining blood sugar balance. What about too much protein? This can be a thing too. So too much protein can definitely put more stress on the kidneys, especially if you already have any kind of kidney issue. And again, it can crowd out other macronutrients like healthy fats and fiber-rich carbs, leading to dietary imbalance. We might not be getting those micronutrients that we're getting from our plant foods, right? That contain a lot of minerals and things like that. And then the other thing I see with too much protein is dehydration, right? And so you eat too much protein, it takes a lot of water to break down that protein. And so sometimes people will get more dehydrated, and maybe that could show up as constipation as well. It can also lead to digestive issues, again, like dehydration, maybe constipation, because it definitely takes more water to break down the protein. So again, it's finding that balance. It's like really being mindful when you sit down to eat and kind of eating the right amount, right? And like making sure, okay, I have that amount on my plate. How does that feel in my body, Because when you find the right balance, the benefits become very clear. Protein supports lowering your cravings, muscle repair and growth. It is a blood sugar stabilizer like no other, right? Because it's like throwing a log on your fire versus like sitting at a fire and just throwing kindling in all day. You'd never be able to leave. And that's what happens when we don't have enough protein, is we suddenly don't feel satisfied, satiated, and we crave and have more snacking happen, right? So we're constantly putting a little bit of fuel into the body, and that can contribute to blood sugar issues. And so it definitely helps to keep you feeling full longer. It's also really vital during certain stages in your life. Again, like pregnancy or growth periods, right? And recovery from illness and stress. So absolutely, we want to have enough protein. And again, this is where we come in, right? And I like to look through the Ayurvedic lens when I look at different amounts of things that we might need, right? So from an Ayurvedic perspective, which would be looking at your constitution or your dosha, that's another way to kind of see, what do I need? So somebody who's more vata, they're thinner, they're maybe drier, they're going to thrive on grounding proteins like lentils and stews and warming dishes and darker meats that are kind of more nutrient dense, right? And kind of wet, warm, and in a bowl meats, like lots of soups and stews. And then pittas, right? Somebody who runs really hot and maybe they have a lot more inflammation, they might need cooling proteins, right? Maybe more like some yogurt and cottage cheese, maybe some other kinds of beans as well. And then lighter colored like fish, right? Think cold water fish. I mean, again, cold water fish is going to be good for everybody, but even white fish, like white cod, right? Because that's going to show like the cooling nature of that fish. And then somebody who's maybe a little thicker, a little kapha, maybe they have extra weight, they're going to benefit from lighter, drier proteins, like maybe grilled chickens or mung bean and garbanzo beans, and also those kind of, white, lighter fish as well, right? So the Ayurvedic principles also emphasize eating what you can digest well. So the amounts are going to vary, right? And that's also where, especially for the kapha and pretty much all of the doshas, like adding spices really help to enhance our digestive system and get our juices flowing. So that's a great way to think about how to optimize digestion, is adding spices. And it's really about the spices that you like and have access to. Like if you have herbs in your garden, chop up some herbs, maybe with a little garlic and olive oil and a little salt, and and then just sprinkle that, and maybe some dried herbs and spices from your cupboard, and then sprinkle that or drizzle that on your cooked meal, right? Or add that into your salad dressing. Herbs and spices are going to really stimulate digestion. It's kind of like putting kindling on the digestive fire that you have. And good, healthy digestive fire is what's going to help us to digest the protein. Everything, but particularly the protein, because again, we have to unfold those proteins and then individualize those amino acids, right? And then we rebrand them into us. Pretty awesome, but let's do our best to support that process. As you probably have gotten the picture, protein is not a one-size-fits-all prescription. Too much can overburden our kidneys, while too little can lead to muscle loss, fatigue, cravings, blood sugar issues. So the key is finding your sweet spot where you're supporting your body without neglecting your carbs, your fats, or your micronutrients. So again, I hope you have learned why protein matters so much. It's essential for vitality, but like all things, balance is key. And if you're curious about finding the right protein intake for your body or how to support digestion, let me know in the comments, and definitely grab my protein cheat sheet. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more nutrition insights. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.